tell us the pandemic, of course, has affected the way that you do business. How are you changing right now, and how do you plan to adjust post-pandemic as well?
Yeah. Evening, Sherry. Good morning, Paul. Yeah, look, 2020 has changed the way we do business, I think permanently for a certain period for a certain sector of what we're doing. We saw some recovery very early on in May in China, where the pandemic was under control. And we could see that there is domestic business happening. There was no international travel. That recovery has come a little bit to a halt right now. What we see is that the domestic business, the local business, has gained in relevance, and we need to focus on that, because I don't think that we have a clear vision in terms of when international travel will actually come back. We're an interconnected industry. We are depending on the air capacity that is out there, as well as when the borders restrictions, when the vaccination rollouts actually happen to an extent that some more movements are possible. What we see are trends that I think are here to stay. I think that the form of hybrid meetings will be something that we will see for the time being and for the future, in terms of until really long distance international cross-border travel will happen.
So you're still profitable in China, right? As opposed to many other parts of the world. What are you expecting during this Chinese Lunar New Year, because restrictions are still in place?
Yeah, I think that in-between state travel is very much restricted. So we are focusing on basically providing the best possible experience for our guests. What we came up with the new term in the last year, staycation in our industry, in making sure that we offer things for our guests to experience the hotels in a new way. That's a very different challenge for us as an industry, because we're usually used to host people that come from different cities, different regions, different countries, and they have very different needs to. If you as a Shanghainese basically join us in our hotel in Xintandi, we have a very different conversation going on with you as a client. So these are things that are there, and we have to make sure that we grab all the business that is out there, in terms of making sure that the livelihood of our hotels, of our employees is impacted as low as possible.
So you have said previously, Stefan, that nobody gets out of this stronger, they get out of it different. So in 2 years' time, when hopefully the pandemic is but a bitter memory, what does your business look like?
Yeah, I guess, look, getting out of this stronger right now would feel almost as an insult to you as an employee or as a business, if you're a small business owner. I mean, right now you're really very much impacted. And this is the background of what I said. We are different because, and we need to be different because we're making experiences right now that we hopefully carry on and change the way we do things. We have changed, jobs. We combined jobs. We looked at the way of how we have actually communications and interactions with our guests. It's very important to have and take on those learnings. Normally, when you open a hotel, you are there and you're open for 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and you never close. And therefore, using that time right now to make those changes, to look at how we do the business and come out in a different way and bank basically some of those learnings is the positive part. But I wouldn't say that it's something that I would say that you got out of this stronger. So that's the way I would phrase that.
You're also looking at European cities to expand into. It does seem rather bold. Is this the right time to be making those sorts of decisions?
Yeah, I guess it is the right time to make those decisions. I mean, for us as a group, we had Europe as one of our expansion areas on the map, and as well as resorts, where we lack a little bit of footprint in the resort category as well. But Europe is the most important travel destination, the most diverse travel destination, and we only had basically our flagship so far in London, the first Grand Hotel in Europe, the Langham London. And we've announced last year we opened up a little one-key residence in Munich outside of the Royal Nymphenburg Castle, as well as we announced that we're growing and building a new resort in the island of Murano in Venice. For us, having a strong customer base in Australia, strong customer base in China and the US, Europe as a destination is a very important market. And making those decisions right now, I think, is a timely point.
You've been in active talks with governments, especially in the UK, going as far as advocating for a Minister of Hospitality in the UK. How far have you gone?
Yeah, I think it is very important that we actually have a greater visibility for our industry because, I mean, we're employing in the hospitality employs in the UK 3.2 million people and is producing about 130 billion as one of the largest private sectors there, and also pays about almost 40 billion pounds in taxes. And we feel that we don't have a seat at the table where we get heard in terms of what the impacts of some of the measures that we particularly see right now are. And I'm not only talking about us as a bigger group, but also about the individual businesses, the individual business owners. And we need to make sure that the livelihood of the cities remains, because that's what makes it attractive. We started that here in Hong Kong about a year ago. We actually, even as competitors, came together to collaborate and say, how do we, with Peninsula, with Wharf, we were basically sitting together and say, okay, how can we make sure that the governments understand in terms of what the consequences of some of those blunt and heavy-handed measures are, to make sure that the impact on those businesses is felt.
Stefan, with the rise of new variants around the world and the pace of vaccination rollouts, what is right now your calculation of which markets will come back first?
What we see is actually an increase in volatility. I mean, we saw, as I said earlier, that China came back in April, May last year, and then we had that domestic business. We were busy between 40, 60, 70, sometimes over the weekend, 100% in our hotels. Now, you've said it earlier, with some of the cases returning, that volatility has even increased. In Australia, I mean, particularly if you look at Melbourne, now the Australian Open are going on, and we had literally within 24 hours, we had the news of the border between New South Wales and Victoria are opening, and new bookings are coming in, and basically within 24 hours, all those bookings fell away because there was this one case around one hotel in Australia. And so I would make no predictions in terms of how far and how quick we get out of this. The thing that is important is that, we get the vaccinations up there, and we need to look for more targeted measures to have some of those businesses that could come back returning. I'm just out of a 21-day quarantine period here in Hong Kong, and I can tell you that, that makes international travel, business travel, even essential travel, basically literally impossible.